don't know why that thing disappears in the bottom there. Start off with what you should really do before you even start the race. I'm quite lucky now, so the setup with Source for Zwift, you get all the information on your screen that tells you exactly where you are. You'll see in a second when the race actually starts and we get into it, you'll be able to see my little red icon on there that tells me exactly where I am. So it tells me what gradient changes are coming up. I can also click on this part of the screen as I'm racing and I can see when exactly those gradient changes are coming. I have a little bit in the bottom left of my stream sometimes, which will, on my screen while I'm racing, which will show me exactly the distance to those segments, which on segment races are ridiculously important, especially when people's name tags just tend to pop up right in front of you. If you don't have that, one of the best things you can do is look at a website called Zwift Hub. So if you go to Zwift Hub in the first place, so let's just start it over as a fresh one. So if we go to Zwift Hub and then go to filter in the bottom, which you can't see because it's masked by my picture, well done me. If I drag that out to this side, I need to make it a bit smaller so we can actually see it. Come on. Doing well here. You've got that filter icon in the bottom left, which was taken over by my screen, by the picture of me. So you click on the filter icon and then you can choose which world that you want. So for yesterday's race, that was Innisbrook. And then click onto Innisbrook and you can scroll down to the course that you actually had. So for yesterday's race, it was on Innsbruck, and to be honest, as soon as you see that, instantly pretty much everything's going to be about that leg snapper, but not quite. That little bump just after it is really important. The push through the sprint is just slightly uphill. You'll see from the video of the race it wasn't that much, but this little part here we thought people were going to be attacking on. Turned out they didn't, but we were aware leading into this section, and this little shallow section that's pretty flat, to be honest. It's a bit misleading because the course is so small. But again, that's why getting to know the courses, learning the courses makes a big difference. But I would take a screenshot of that and I'd have it on my phone right in front of me. For me, actually, while I'm racing, it goes here, right in front of me. So it's directly in line with my screen. I've got my bike here. I've got my computer screen on the right hand side here in front of me, which has got the information that I need for the race externally, like numbers, data on other people, and any other information that I want to put up. And then the actual screen itself will look exactly the same as it comes out on the stream. So if I click onto the stream, then let me have a look at this. Something else that you can do before you start. If you go into Zwift Power and then find the race that you're in, which is pretty easy, you just go onto your profile, and I won't have any at the moment because I haven't signed up to any races, but you then click on sign ups. Your race that you'll have will pop up here. We'll just have a look at a random one that's about to go off and do the same thing. So that race is about to go off. That should have quite a few people in it. You can then click, so I'm in category B, and you can click at the category, and that one is results, not races that are about to come up. Let's not go on that one. Let's have one that has not occurred yet. So we'll go for 3:10. And then click on that, and these are all the people that will actually have signed up for the race. You can rank them by their race ranking, which is not the be all and end all, but to be fair, a lot of people, when they are racing a lot, the better races tend to have a better race ranking. Again, not be all and end all. If they do tons of tiny races, it tends to massively underinflate their number, which overinflates their score. You can rank them by their 20-minute power. You could rank them by their 15-second power if you're thinking about the sprints. It's a bit sad they don't have a 1-minute ranking or a 2-minute one to rank on here, because actually for racing that's equally important as your endurance, to be honest, and the shorter races probably more so, which is why I can still compete at the front end of B, even though I've only just promoted from C, and my stats in terms of endurance are definitely towards the low end of B. So you can have a look for the information. You can look back on your races that have just gone, and for instance the race that we did yesterday, I'll come back to this one in a second. You can look at the stats that you've done on your race and see how you compare to other people. Right, let's have a look at the video that we got. Am I going to click on the right one? Go full screen. Okay, let's have a look at the start of the race. I'll pause it at different points, analyse some bits that I do well, some bits that I do badly, see how it actually gone.
Good luck, Pete. Good luck, Dave. I'll start.
Sweet. Do you run music and talk at the same time as well?
I've got it on, yeah. I've got it on the background.
Yeah, me too.
Music, super important.
You can still get just as good a quality. It's good.
Mine, for some reason, turned itself off while I was racing yesterday. I had to keep tapping my ear to turn it back on again. Start of the races always go off pretty hard, so give it a bit of a punch. You don't need to be winning, that's pretty silly to be honest. But at this stage, not the be all and end all. I'd rather be top 5 at this stage than I would be trying to hang back on again, not knowing if you've got a little break out the front. Doesn't normally happen on the start, it tends to just compress back together again, but we'll see. So sat out, I've backed up quite a lot here, as you can see by my power. And then I want to back up and just slot into the back of the race pretty much as soon as I can.
Take a snapshot.
Sometimes in the beginning when it starts to stretch, you want to try and look for that first blob, and then you position yourself right on the back of that blob. It's what I'm trying to do at the moment, trying to modulate my power to try and keep myself towards the back of the screen. You can see Pete here, very good rider as well.
Starts at 2.2 kilometres.
And Tom, you'll see in a second, the 3 of us will have 3 of the lowest stats on average watt per kilogram for the race. Okay, we'll zoom on just a little bit. And like pause it at that point. You can pretty much see the 3 riders from that. The 3 of us are 3 of the lowest stats going into this race in terms of endurance. So we need to make sure that we do as little as possible compared to the other riders around us. So as much as we possibly can, we're trying to position ourselves right on the back of that bunch of the riders in front. We don't want to be here. We're probably just a tiny bit too far. If this rider in front of me detaches, then he'll take me with it. That happened in a race I did the other day, and I nearly lost the group actually because I was struggling for endurance. I was finding it pretty tricky at that point in the race. That rider backed off. I backed off with him even because I was just matching my power to stay with him, and I just didn't have the legs to catch back on again. I think, and therefore ended up getting dropped. So you just got to be really, really careful about that. Ideally, we'd want to be sat just in here, I think. Pete's very, very good at that.
Of course, it's you, me and Tommy at the back.
And obviously comment about it.
Yeah, lovely life at the moment.
We were actually a little bit disappointed with this one because we wanted the pace to actually be that bit higher with us at the back to try and save as much energy as we can. With it being the pace being so low in this race, we're only doing 40 kilometres an hour in B, which is pretty slow pace in the flat. And we actually wanted it to be faster. I made a bit of a concerted effort to give up just a little bit more. You can see the draft numbers, which tell you how much power you're saving compared to the people around you. So if I was on the front, I'd have to be doing an extra 123 watts to keep this same pace. Obviously the guys in the front aren't getting that, they are doing this. There's a reason why I position myself here. Sticky watts means that essentially you can be sat right behind the rider in front of you. That rider, in order for you to go past them, you have to do, I don't know the exact numbers, I think it's about 20 to 30 watts more than that rider, or more than the watts you would need to do to stay in that position. And most people edge on the case. They really don't want to go back. So because of that, they do enough watts so they just don't go forwards. But that means they're doing 20 to 30 watts more than they need to. And those 20 to 30 watts constantly throughout the whole race means your average watt per kilogram is really high. You get drained as you're going on the flat compared to the riders that are drafting as much as possible. I want to be doing as little as humanly possible for every part of the race, apart from the bit where either I want to attack or I want to be aggressive to try and minimise my effort afterwards. And I'll talk about that with the leg snapper in a second. So I think sitting right on the back of the pack and trying to just minimise how much you drop off. You're always on the edge of just dropping off the back is the optimal place to be. But that's my opinion on it.
I went over an attack myself.
Right, let's have a look towards the leg snapper then. So leg snapper's got a bit of a left-right. You can see it on the map up here. You can see it on my positioning on the little bar that I've got at the top there, so you can see my rider here. I'm coming up towards the leg snapper. The leg snapper will actually start as the mouse goes, mouse, that's the cursor on there. As they actually bend around to the right, you've got a little flat section, kicks up a little bit, goes flat, and then you've got that steep section. I always try and up my pace a bit going into it, keep my pace, or even try and increase it on the flat section while trying to sit down most of the time, and then I'll stand up and I'll kick after that to try and make sure I summit as best I can. I actually do a really bad job on this first lap. I was pretty unimpressed with myself, to be honest, and I'll try and explain why when we get to the top. I've got a draft power up at the moment. My aim was to save that draft power up until I got up over the top of the leg snapper, and then I was going to press it just before I got to the banner, so then I'd still get the new power up, and that would allow me to get to speed as I got up over the top and try and hold on to those lead groups. I knew I'd struggle a bit with them. So here I'm too far back. I was pretty annoyed at myself, to be honest, where I'm racing and I just didn't move to the front. You'll see in a second I did a much better job on the second one. I'm in a bit of pain, doing 750 watts. You'll see later I did less, I think, and still stayed at the front later. I just didn't move far enough forwards. So on these little segments, if you summit in the top 5 to 10, you rest while everyone else catches up. At this point I get over the top, and I'm okay because of the fact that I've managed my power so that I'm staying just on the back of this group, a little bit further back than I'd want. Ideally I'd want to be here. And as I come over the top now, I'm alright, but I could have been much better. If I'd have been a bit further forwards, I'd have been in this group, I'd have been resting a lot more. I wouldn't have to be doing 200 and odd watts down here. You'll see on the later one it was just a much easier push through. The bunch came out in front of me that I managed to latch onto, so it ended up being alright, but I wasn't that pleased with myself with that. It was a bit disappointing, to be honest. The little lump afterwards, just a little kick, push yourself back into the pack, or can give you a little push onto the front, just so then the other guys just come onto you, and again you can get a bit more of a draft as you're going down the bottom. So not the best, not the worst effort, the leg snapper there. I think I do much better from the second one. There wasn't much more in the rest of the lap. As you go around, you'll still see positioning on the back. I don't want to be around those. I want to be just in here, just off the back of that main bunch. And if I click at any point, you should hopefully pretty much always see me around that point, trying to stay behind that main bunch of riders. Okay, second leg snapper. I had a much better one this one. So I said how annoyed I was at I think I'd said to my teammates how annoyed I was at my attempt at the leg snapper on the first one. So second one, turn the music up so I can have a bit more, don't know, psychological impact.
Good luck. Good luck.
And then I went to move forwards as much as I could. No, I'm going to take that back. I wanted to push the first bit, so I hit the steep bit one or two or three riders behind the guy that was first, so I still get draft. You'll see in a second that I still hold 70-80 watts of draft, if I remember rightly on the numbers. If I'd have gone right up front, I'd have done nothing, and that would have been a bit silly. So I actually back off just that tiny little bit, you can see there, and then I kick again at 700 watts, and I'm trying to stay just on the back of these riders in front. And then similar power to what I was doing on the previous lap, but so much more comfortable. Psychologically, being in the top few as well just lets you push that a little bit harder than you would have done normally. And now I'm pretty comfortable at getting up over the top there. I can be easily able to slot back into that first group when it appears. And then make sure you use a bit of power and kick right over the top. And then I'm kind of watching my rider to see what he's like compared to the other riders around me. Am I going forwards, backwards? I dropped the ghost because I just don't care about it. I just wanted to make sure I'd used it before the next banner, so I actually got another one. I'd have been pretty annoyed if I kept hold of it and not got my next power up, so I just got rid of it straight away. It was no help for me in this race whatsoever. I was never breaking over, not against these riders. I make a big mistake on this one, I think. I'm still 50-50 on it. There's a break that happens as we come towards the next sprint. So I position myself right in the back of the group where I want to be here. Ideally, I'd be a little bit more in, but without steering towards the middle, without steering what you're meant to do, but my draft numbers are still good. But as we come on to the next sprint, the race stretches out. There's a bunch that looks like they've gone out the front. And I just got a bit nervous that break was going to go away. There were enough riders in it that I thought it might have stayed, and I didn't like that one stretch of the imagination. You can see how that group is starting to go out in front. I'm starting to get a bit nervous about that. So I decide to make a massive concerted effort. So I look at this and think, this is a bunch, not just a few riders that are stretching themselves out, and bunches can stay. And so I made a monstrous effort to try and get back on again. And it blew me up. It nearly cost me probably did cost me my sprint at the end, if I'm honest. Where I was in serious trouble, heart rate 170, which for me is high. Luckily I've got this rider to help me try and get back on again, but I burnt a lot of energy trying to make sure that I got back onto this group. You can see that I'm struggling. If I was feeling fit enough, I'd have pushed hard to make sure I got right onto that bunch of riders behind, and I didn't. So that took a lot out of me. Was it the right thing to do in this situation? Well, 100% not on this one, actually, because the group that I was in anyway caught up. So I could have saved a ton of energy there. That would have given me a bit more legs for the sprint at the end, because as you'll see later, I was pretty broken at the end. Would I do it again? Probably, because that was a good bunch of riders. If they'd have decided to really push there, they would have gone away. But I'm still, I don't know, I'm still a little bit dubious about whether it was the right thing to do or not. A couple of random snapshots, and just always in that same position again. Apart from this one, a little bit further forward than I'd like to be on that. Maybe I thought that people were going to push up that little climb a bit, but they didn't. And then slot back again, same thing again, ready for the third leg snapper. I was pretty happy with this one because I was struggling a bit. Legs weren't feeling tip top. Aim was the same as last time. Because I was struggling a little bit, there's somebody who commented on my video actually saying that I should have used my power up over the top to try and do the same thing I did in the first lap. There was a reason why I didn't on this one. I wanted to save as much energy as I could at the beginning of the climb, but I wanted to make that little jump to make sure that I was up close to the front, so I popped it now, and I wanted to push forwards, but not enough that I pushed right out. So you see on here again, I wanted that timing to be here. So actually I was pretty happy with that positioning, actually, to try and make sure that I stayed as close as I could to that front of the race. Oh, that's good, isn't it? Don't think that turned up on the stream at all. So I'm hurting here. This was not pleasant. Legs in a bit of trouble. Rider that's only just promoted in B in a B1 race, trying to stay with those guys, it was pretty tough. But super happy that I managed to stay on, but wasn't that confident about the sprint for this one. Normally now I'd be trying to conserve as much energy as humanly possible to position myself in the right place for the sprint so that I could get my timing right. To be honest, on this one I was trying to position it right so I didn't lose as many places as possible coming into the sprint, so I was dreading the fact that these guys might have pushed at the end. Luckily they didn't really, which kind of saved me a bit because I'd have been in a bit of trouble if they had done. So I'm just trying to rest up as much as humanly possible now, trying to stick myself on the back of this group. If we just fast forward towards the sprint section a bit. So yeah, try and do as little as I can. A little bit, I guess, critical of myself there. I'm a bit too close to the back. Too close off the back of this rider. I prefer to be where I am now, so I've moved up just that little bit. One of my teammates actually messaged me to tell me to move forward. You can't see that because it's blocked by the camera. So thanks for that, AJ. Not realising I didn't have any legs left. for me, coming into a sprint with a heart rate of 160, I'm in trouble, to be honest. Riders start to move. They came back together again, so I didn't actually need to put that much effort in, so I ended up dropping back a bit anyway, so it probably wasn't the right thing to do, to be honest. And then I'm looking for a few things now. So on the run into that sprint now, I've got a couple of thought processes if I'm trying to win the race. I wasn't here because I just don't have the endurance to do this. I knew I was not competing for first. I just love to get a top 10. Didn't get that. But I just wanted to minimise my losses if possible. If I wasn't and I was looking to try and do well at this stage, then my thought process would have been essentially to try and make sure that I am doing as little as possible but not sacrificing distance. So the riders in front, you're going to start to see riders start to strip out from the front, start to move forwards, and that will stretch the group out from the front, but you tend to get one or two riders that go off and you get a little bunch of 3-4 that chase on. If I want to do a late last minute sprint, I want to be on the back of those 3 or 4 riders that are going through, and I wait for them to up their sprint, and then I hook onto the back of them, sitting down well, hopefully trying to do it with cadence while they increase their power, and then I time my sprint for when I think I can go flat out and drain just before I hit the line, and I'll sprint with those guys. If I wanted to go early, I sit in and I'll try and time it as early as I can. So I used to be able to, when I was in the category below, to be able to go at kind of 700 metres plus. I moved into B category and thought I could do the same thing, and I just died a horrible death and dropped out the back. That didn't work very well. On this one, I'm just trying to minimise my losses, if I'm honest. So I'm looking at the riders around and trying to make sure that I'm as far forward as I can, so that when the riders in front go, I can get sucked along in their wheel as much as possible to try and save as much as I can for that last sprint at the end, but it's not going to be a good one. My max sprint is around 1,200 watts of my max power, and I'm way off that in this. So ideally I'd want to be up here, to be honest, but I just don't have the legs for it. I'm struggling at this point. You can probably tell by my facial expression. If I was feeling good, probably want to go now, or going around 600, 700 metres. If you're a bit more of endurance, you know that you don't have that max power of the guys around you. Can you break free? Steering can be used for that, to try and break free, but not allowed in a ZRL race anyway. And then I'm looking for these riders and just trying to think, how can I minimise as much what I'm doing as much as humanly possible. Bit surprised we got to 600 metres and nobody's gone yet. Another thing you can look for, the numbers on the right hand side. Modern bits, you can also see that with the source stuff that I've got with the groups icon there, you can actually see when somebody starts to sprint, this will start to flash red. But you're also looking at the watt per kilogram numbers for all the riders, and as soon as you see the colours from those riders change to red, you know that somebody's going, and normally you'll see their avatar stand up and kick as well. You can, turns out, change your FTP and stop it from doing that, but I don't even know how you would do that. I'd be worried about doing that and for the 5v5s you're definitely not allowed to do it, which is brilliant series, but you can see riders are starting to go off the front. I haven't seen that flash actually, it's interesting. So I'd watched that guy go and I just thought I've got to go now and try and get sucked along as much as I can. I'm too far back, but struggling for any level of effort to be put out there. My sprints were up in 700 watts, which is pretty poor, to be honest. And I'm just trying to minimise my losses now. I'm just trying to hook onto this group to try and keep the same position. I think I did keep 19th. I lost one and gained one as I came into the finish line. So sprint-wise, pretty poor, but I was not in a very good place at that point. And that is, I guess, my recon. Never done one before. Just thought it might be quite useful to go through and see parts that I did well, parts that I did badly. Overall, pretty impressed with that race. I was pretty happy with it, considering it was a B1 one. But see what you guys think. Thank you for watching, anybody that did.